Disney Plus thrives on nostalgia and bringing back franchises long since forgotten. And this is the case with Night at the Museum, a franchise that started in 2006 starring Ben Stiller. Disney Plus recently released Night at the Museum: Kahmunrah Rises Again, an animated movie that continues the storyline with the son of the original character. With new releases comes new problems, so we need to find out who's topping our morality spectrum this time. I'm Kyle with WickedBinge, and this is Night at the Museum: Kahmunrah Rises Again, Good to Evil. A couple quick notes. We'll be focusing exclusively on the events that happen in this film, and as always, spoilers ahead. As usual, we'll be starting out with the most pure and noble character and working our way down to the most evil. These characters are the good. Taking our top spot and the winner of our gold medal of good is Nick Daly. Nick is the 18-year-old son of Larry, the original iconic night guard from the original series. Nick still goes to high school, wanting to be popular and impress his crush Mia. It's said he grew up in the museum around the exhibits for most of his life, where he made good friends.
Want me to unwrap it for you?
Nick takes up the position of night guard and does the work seriously despite originally being against it. He cares for the people and exhibits and balances that with his school life pretty well. Nick would lose points if we consider his fear of the basement is what caused the entire movie to happen, but considering he saved the world, we can't overlook it. Nick is a good kid and he definitely deserves the top spot. Taking our silver medal of good is Joan of Arc. Joan was a French peasant who joined the army to help the war effort. She was commemorated with a statue and exhibit at the titular Natural History Museum. She is amongst the many exhibits who purposefully and continually scare away any guard that isn't Larry or Nick. While this would usually knock her down a peg or two, there's a good reason she ranks so high. Because of her penchant for protection and family in the events of the film. Joan works with Nick and the others to stop Kahmunrah and nearly dies in the process. She does everything she can to help those with her, and she always charges headfirst into battle.
Surrender or taste the blade of Joan of Arc!
Joan isn't a bad person by any means. However, she does seem to get a bit too hard-headed at times, which means she falls in her ranking just a little bit. Next up, taking our bronze medal of good is Theodore Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy was the president of the United States at one point where he made quite the name for himself, including being our writer's favorite president. Teddy is one of the main exhibits at the museum and a character once perfectly portrayed by Robin Williams. Teddy seems to be the main ringleader of forcing the night guards out of the position. He even times how long it takes to kick the newest guard out of the job, even mentioning its record-breaking status.
That's a new record, everyone!
Teddy also forces the idea of Nick being the new guard into Larry's head. He takes his position as a leader quite seriously and uses every opportunity he can to help take down Kahmunrah. Teddy does help save the world, but he's sort of goofy, and while not totally a comic relief character, it certainly does hinder him a bit. Next up we have Sacagawea. Sacagawea, like Teddy and Joan, is an exhibit at the Museum of Natural History where she comes to life at night. This usually means she'll be amongst those who scare away any new night guards who come around. Now she is amongst those who help stop Kahmunrah and save the world, and this alone ranks her pretty high.
Kahmunrah was here not too long ago. We're gaining on them.
But we do have her to thank partially for saving the life of Nick, as well as the exhibits as a whole. Her beads she gave him managed to stop him from falling to his death, and her poster allows him and others to get back to the museum on time. So Sacagawea is responsible for everyone getting home safely. Taking the next spot is Law, a caveman and one of the exhibits who Larry and Nick have to look over. He is a very silly and goofy guy, but that's because of his lower intelligence. He's one of the exhibits who scares away Ronnie, but this is more out of his incompetence and less purposeful, as he continually sticks his hand in hot popcorn despite knowing it hurts. Law is amongst the exhibits who help to take down Kahmunrah and almost dies trying. He spends most of the film getting into trouble or almost dying, which includes when he and Dexter fall into a trap. He seems like a good guy, if not for the fact he does a lot of dumb and dangerous things. Next up, we have Mia. Mia is Nick's crush and a band kid who appears only briefly in the movie. Mia does occupy a pretty important place in the film, where she is one of the people who believes in Nick early on, as opposed to his own internal doubt on the matter. She also appears at the end where she plays with the other jazz band kids to enhance Nick's DJ music. Mia seems like a good person, but she only appears briefly, and isn't a part of saving the world, so we can't rank her any higher. Taking the next spot is Larry. Larry is the original and most well-known night guard for the Museum of Natural History. He pops up in this film to lead to the hiring of his son Nick and give the boy some advice.
You're not just my son, you're the best person I know.
Larry has accepted a job at the Tokyo Museum where his job is much different from what it was. He is a good guy and a good dad, but we can't rank him any higher because again, he didn't save the world, although his advice at the beginning of the movie may have led to it happening regardless. With the good section wrapped up, we now move into more neutral territory. These characters fall in the gray area. First up, we have Erica. Erica is Larry's ex-wife, and while her name is not spoken in the movie, she does have a part to play. She initially is against Nick becoming a night guard, but after some convincing, she decides to relent and let him. She's shown to be very protective, even threatening Larry's life if something happens to Nick. Erica is a good woman, but she doesn't have a whole lot of screen time to rank anywhere else. Moving on, next up we have Ronnie. Ronnie is the initial security guard for the museum during the beginning of the film. He doesn't seem to care all that much for rules, saying he is more of an improv guy. He isn't aware of the living exhibits, and as such, they freak him out majorly. He instantly shows that he doesn't care much for his job, and he instantly quits within 2 minutes. However, this mostly comes from the fact his main dream is actually Broadway and singing. Ranked together, Jedediah and Octavius are up next. 2 more living exhibits in the museum. These 2 are part of the Hall of Miniatures, and as such, they are very small. This means they're often in trouble because of their size. The 2 of them absolutely hate being small, as they find it a major inconvenience. Despite this, they do try to help in any way they can. In fact, they even manage to tame a cat who ends up helping against Kahmunrah. These 2 are very close friends and seem to enjoy their time together, but they rank low because they're always bickering and annoying others. Wrapping up our gray area is Dexter, another one of the many living exhibits who come to life overnight in the museum. Dexter is a monkey who wanders around the museum enjoying himself. He ends up annoying most of the people around him because he really enjoys slapping them. He slaps nearly everyone in the film, sometimes for good reason and other times just for fun. He's also part of the group that scares away Ronnie, but he doesn't take a major part in that. He lands here at the bottom of the gray area because he's just an annoyance and really nothing else. With the gray area wrapped up, it's now time to get into the dark side. These characters are the bad and the evil. Starting out this section, we have Attila the Hun. Attila is based on a warmonger and barbarian, and those traits do come forward to some degree. He is the premier guy behind scaring the night guard, as he comes across as the most threatening. Although he does seem to be quite happy and calm most of the time, he does land low because he doesn't seem to care about the world around him outside of stopping Kahmunrah. He damages the property of museums quite often and nearly kills people on multiple occasions. Attila sort of lands here mostly as a product of a lack of bad guys in this film, but he certainly could be far worse. Next up, we have the final school-related character, Bodhi. He appears very briefly early on in the movie, being a rocker kid who seems to take up a slight bully role against Nick. He's mostly an imbecile and annoying, as most of his appearances are just him causing Nick to freak out about his skills. He doesn't seem like the worst kid, but we still rank him here regardless. Taking the bronze medal of evil, or I guess we should say bad, is Dr. McPhee. McPhee is the director of the museum, who is the one who hires, fires, and hosts the employees and everyone else in the museum. He's sort of a man-child who relies on his mother, and most of the time on screen he's antagonistic. In fact, he doesn't seem to care for Nick all too much, only hiring him because he trusts Larry.
That was weird. You're a weird boy, and you make me uncomfortable.
McPhee doesn't have much screen time beyond this, expecting Nick to be a menace and unable to be trusted. Although he's not much of a threat, he's very annoying and a very rude guy. Taking our silver medal of evil is Seth. Seth is the Egyptian god of chaos and the tallest of the jackal gods in his family. Being a god of chaos, he spends most of his time destroying things and being generally crazy. He has ambitions to rule the world, although he finds Kahmunrah to be sort of annoying and not his favorite to work with. He quickly picks up on Kahmunrah's daddy issues and tries to get him to work on that, because he apparently constantly teams up with bad guys with unresolved trauma.
You should try a therapist. It's much cheaper than all this nonsense.
He constantly tries to destroy Nick and the exhibits, and is not against killing if necessary. However, as this was under the orders of Kahmunrah, we can't dock him too many points. Seth is a pretty crazy guy, and he likes being called a train wreck. However, he definitely can't take our bottom spot, at least for now. To nobody's surprise, the gold medal of evil goes to Kahmunrah. Kahmunrah, also known as the King of Kings, was an exhibit at the museum based on the son of a pharaoh that never grew road to that status. He's a man who is very full of himself and wants to rule the world by raising an army from the underworld.
Everyone will bow to me.
He scares Nick so that he can escape the basement and then steals the tablet to open a portal to ancient Egypt, so he can gain this power. He frees Seth from his tomb and orders him around, making sure to try and stop Nick in the exhibits. In fact, he spends most of the movie trying to kill Nick because he gets in the way, and if it wasn't for Teddy's glasses case, he would have killed the young boy in his way. In fact, his final moments include trying to drag the young adult into the tomb, effectively trapping him. Kahmunrah is a massive evil threat, and by far deserves our gold medal of evil, because every action he does is, well, evil. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our morality ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.